Wyoming voters are not only Republican by and large, but they're very conservative. And for Liz Cheney to have spent the last 2 years beating up on a Republican president and then a former Republican president and supporting the sham January 6th proceedings on behalf of the Democrats never were going to resonate with the voters in her state.
Former Congressman and the chairman of Liberty Guard, Bob Barr, is joining us tonight from Georgia. Congressman, good to see you.
Doug, always great to be with you. There's a lot on the platter this evening, and it allows me to put on my hat as a former United States attorney.
Let's talk about Liz Cheney's Mammoth defeat last night, for starters. No surprise that she lost, but the margin of her loss was significant to Harriet Hageman. Your general reaction?
Wyoming voters are not only Republican by and large, but they're very conservative. And for Liz Cheney to have spent the last 2 years beating up on a Republican president and then a former Republican president and supporting the sham January 6th proceedings on behalf of the Democrats never were going to resonate with the voters in her state. So it's no surprise. It's hard to tell whether Mr. Trump made the difference in that case or whether Bugs Bunny running against her would have beaten her. But it certainly does help Mr. Trump moving forward in terms of his influence in congressional and senatorial races for this coming November.
She said in her concession speech that the primary election is over, but now the real work begins. And she said that I will do whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of office. And then this key statement: Abraham Lincoln was defeated in elections for the Senate and House before he won the most important election of all. Is she going to run for president?
Well, you and I have studied Abraham Lincoln, and Liz Cheney is no Abraham Lincoln. Her speech was kind of highfalutin and looking to the future as well as looking to the past, one of our great presidents. But the fact that she is on a negative crusade, that is going after one person rather than talking about a clear agenda for the people of her state and for the country, will doom her in the future. If that's all she's after is going after Mr. Trump, she's not going to get anywhere. Voters don't like it if you simply are going after somebody as opposed to presenting a positive agenda.
Well, you, when you served in Congress, were no country club Republican, as they say. And I wonder if Liz Cheney is trying to support a Republican Party which has fundamentally shifted with the presence and the power of Donald Trump. He reminds me oftentimes, I use the analogy of the movie Caddyshack. He's Rodney Dangerfield trying to get into the country club, and they simply don't want him. But he now runs the country club. That's the reality.
The people of this country, a lot of them support Mr. Trump because he is, despite his wealth, is not a country club Republican. He is not an establishment Republican. Liz Cheney and her pedigree through her dad and the Bush administration, or administrations, I should say, are very much the status quo. They are the establishment through and through. And as Mr. Trump's victory in 2016 and his near victory in 2020 shows, Republicans in particular, and I think a lot of independents, are no longer going to be supporting candidates who are simply part of the old establishment. So I think Liz Cheney has hitched her horse to a dying breed.
On the subject of Donald Trump, key hearing tomorrow in court as the court will decide whether or not to release the affidavit which led to the search warrant of the search of Mar-a-Lago. What do you expect to hear from the court?
I think the court will be very interested more in what the government's position is than Mr. Trump's, because the government is saying that the search of Mar-a-Lago last week was only part of an ongoing and very sensitive investigation, and that if in fact the details leading up to that search, which is the affidavit or affidavits, contain information that the government believes is essential to keep secret at this point because witnesses may in fact be intimidated and may not testify. There are further leads that they must follow up. And I suspect that the court probably will go along with that because they do provide or give deference to the government in sensitive ongoing investigations. And that doesn't mean that the government will be able to keep that information secret for an indefinite period of time. But I do think for the time being, the government will be successful in maintaining the confidentiality of the search warrant information.
If this goes to a criminal trial, that affidavit will be released as a part of discovery, as I understand. We'll eventually see it anyway, right?
Absolutely, and probably before a trial. But at least while the government is following up, as they will be saying in court, on additional leads and interviewing additional witnesses, that could fall apart if all of that information is made public. I think the court will say, okay, you're going to have to come back to us in a reasonable period of time, but for right now, I think the government will have made its case to remain to keep the information confidential.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.